Let's talk a little college shooty hoop, shall we? Conference tournaments already underway. We've crowned some champions. Some folks have already punched their ticket to the NCAA tournament. Joining us right now, you can find him on CBS Sports. Jerry Palm, JP Palm, CBS. That's the Twitter handle. Jerry, my friend, first and foremost, good morning to you, partner. How are you? How's life? How are things?
Everything's good. How are you?
It's the most wonderful time of the year, right? We got conference tournaments, NFL deadlines. We got the Players' Championship coming up, coming out of the Underwear Olympics to the NFL Combine. It is a beautiful time of year. But, Jerry, I have this burning question I'm asking everybody I can find. Jerry, is the Big Ten good at basketball? What when you watch the Big Ten, what do you see out of this conference that I've seen bracketology say there could be as many as 10 teams from this conference to make it to the big dance?
Yeah, but they might all be 8, 9, and 10 seeds, except for, Purdue and Indiana and, Northwestern and maybe Michigan State. Everybody else is a middle of the bracket team. Well, you have to have those teams too. But you might not have more than 2 teams seeded to actually get to the Sweet 16, no matter how many get in. So they might be numerous, but they may not be there for long.
Zach Edey at Purdue. You mentioned the Boilermakers. They're going to be high up there in the seeding marks. They're going to be pretty tough to beat. When I watch Purdue, it does kind of feel like they do have that guy who's 7'4", who is one of the most monstrous human beings I think anybody will ever see. I try to describe the size of his cranium. It's like a football helmet. Like that's how big. Like I don't think people can understand that his foot is about the size of your elbow to the end of your fingertips. Like he's a massive human being. When you see him up close in person, like his hand, he like palmed my face, and could have thrown me across Chrysler Center.
Fortunately, he's a gentle soul, except on the court.
So he is. He's such a nice guy. Does he cover up some flaws that Purdue has because he is just impossible to guard?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, Purdue does that intentionally. They don't intentionally have flaws, but they certainly intentionally play through the post. So maybe that does that. They certainly have some flaws. Their 3-point shooting is spotty. When they're hitting their threes, you can't defend them. There's just no way. But and they turn the ball over at times. It's been better lately. That's part of depending on freshman guards. Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer have had really good seasons. Lawyer's shooting has come down late in the year. You kind of wondered if his legs are wearing out on him a little, but Braden Smith and Lawyer have been keys to this team. But when you're playing with freshman guards in the NCAA tournament, you always have to worry. But Zach, Zach can only do so much in terms of covering up for other people's mistakes.
It's going to be very, very interesting to see if Purdue can be one of those teams that out of the Big Ten, if we could finally get a little respect back, right? And for the folks wondering, yes, they have stashed another 7'2" individual on their roster, a young fella from Stockholm, Sweden, by the name of Will Berg. And Will Berg is another large human coming out of the Purdue factory of 7-footers there on their farm that they do have. If it's Purdue's the high seed, okay. Is there a team that you honestly look at that could really move and shake in this NCAA tournament from the Big Ten? Or is this another year where we kind of look at it, it's like, well, we get all these teams in. Where's our Elite Eight team? Where's our Final Four team? Yeah. Who's going to make a legitimate run at a national championship?
Yeah, it could be Indiana if it's not Purdue. Indiana, of course, Trace Jackson Davis, a fabulous player. He could also be a first-team All-American. But I think they're going to go as far as their freshman guard, Jordan Hood-Schifino, takes them. He's the guy on that team that the NBA guys want. And typically when you see teams get to the Final Four, they all have a guy like that, a guy that the NBA wants. Now, Zach Edey is different because they don't use guys like him anymore. The 10 years ago, NBA scouts would be drooling over him, but they don't play through the post in the NBA anymore. So Zach's a little different in that regard, but Hood-Schifino is a terrific player, and they're going to need him to play well to open up the rest of that offense at Indiana. And if they do that, they've got enough weapons to make a deep run.
I tell you what, I love Jalen Hood-Schifino. The first time I got to watch him in person, like to see his size, it's like, yeah, one and done. Get out of there. We don't need you to stick around. Like you absolutely play in the NBA right now. You're the perfect size for what they're looking for in today's NBA. And then, in his last game against the heartbreaker that was the Michigan game in overtime for people on my side of the fence, He finishes with 13 points, couple of rebounds, couple assists, 4 of 9 from the field. You feel pretty good. But really, I mean, you mentioned the guy Trace Jackson Davis, like that. He was fantastic in that ball game. My Michigan Wolverines, couple of really good opportunities. Road game in Illinois, road game in Indiana to end the season. They missed out and blew both of those opportunities. It does feel like tomorrow's game against Rutgers is a play-in game to the NCAA tournament. Do you see it that way? How many games in the Big Ten tournament would this team have to win?
It's actually a play-out game. The winner isn't guaranteed anything except another chance to play. The loser is not going to make it. So it's really more of an elimination game. And, it's funny because Michigan is a team, they're depending on freshmen quite a bit. Of course, you've got a star player in Hunter Dickinson. But, Jet Howard, Doug McDaniel, it's McDaniel, right?
Yep.
Those guys, are when they play well. I mean, those are really, athletic guys who have ability, but they're freshmen. So sometimes they play like freshmen. But, when those two guys are going and Hunter Dickinson is playing with energy and effectiveness, then, that Michigan could be better than their record indicates. But unfortunately, their record indicates what they are because they don't always play that way. And and they've had injury problems too. Jet Howard's been in and out of the lineup and things like that. So, but I think that, with the pieces together, and getting good play from those freshmen, I think Michigan could be a sleeper in the NCAA tournament, but they have to get there first.
Got to get there first. One team that I feel like we could just pencil in, or maybe even use Sharpie. It doesn't really matter. They're going to be in. It all depends on what seed they are. The Izzo kids out of East Lansing, Michigan State. They have done it again. They schedule ridiculously hard in the beginning of the year, get their guys battle tested, and get ready to go in conference play. And they've had a little bit of a roller coaster. They've had a couple of weeks where, maybe they have lost a couple games in a row, but they've found a way to battle right back. And I just don't know, Jerry, if people understand and appreciate how good Tom Izzo has been for Michigan State.
Oh, hey, legendary, really. I mean, if you're not paying attention, if you don't know that about Tom Izzo, then you just, you're a casual college basketball fan at best. He's done a tremendous job. This year's team has been a little spotty at times. I think they'll be in the top half of the bracket, 6 seed-ish, something like that. But they've had injury problems throughout the course of the year, too, that they really haven't had all their pieces, it seems like, for much of this season, in fits and starts. Malik Hall, I know, missed a bunch of time. I don't know if they're fully healthy right now, but fully healthy Michigan State, there's a lot of talent on that roster. He gets pretty good players there. So if they've had time, healthy, and have had time to build their chemistry, they can be pretty dangerous in the NCAA tournament, too.
So do you have a number in mind of what you think the Big Ten will actually get into the big dance? How many teams?
No. I mean, I have a number of teams that I feel pretty comfortable will get in. Like 7 of them. The teams that we haven't mentioned are Illinois, Iowa, Maryland, Northwestern. So, and then what we've mentioned 4 others, but I don't feel comfortable about Michigan. So really 7 I feel comfortable about. And then we'll see what Michigan and Penn State and Rutgers and Wisconsin do, anywhere from 1 to 3 of those.
Jerry, this is going to be kind of a crazy question, and you could feel free to just laugh me off the face of the earth right now. But I also work at the Mid-American Conference.
Should I wait for the question?
Wait for the question. Okay. So I work at the Mid-American Conference as well for a team in the Toledo Rockets who have won 15 consecutive games. They're the number 1 seed in the MAC. They're going into the MAC tournament. Kent State has been very good this year as well. Both of those teams are 25-6 overall. Will we ever see a day again like we used to back in the glory days of the MAC, right? The mid to late 90s. Will we see a day in which the MAC gets 2 bids into the tournament where they're looked upon to say, you know what, this conference can be as competitive. The top teams in this conference, they'll never get a good home game when it comes to the non-conference scheduling. They're always going to have to go on the road or play neutral floors. Does the NCAA, will the committee even think about looking at 2 teams if Kent and Toledo find themselves in the MAC finals on Saturday?
Not this year. I won't say it'll never happen, but Wally Zerbiak isn't walking through that door. That's really what it's going to take. I mean, it's going to take a talent influx where these teams can play, at the level of some of the middle of the pack Big Ten teams, and then then they go play those games on the road because, like you said, that's what they'll have to do and win some of those games. But that's what you have to do. But you have to have the players first. And while I love the MAC, these teams are good enough to win a game in the NCAA tournament. When they get there, they'll probably get Toledo or Kent if it's one of them. Should get a good enough seed to have a game that they can compete in. But to get two teams in the tournament, you're going to have at least one team of at-large quality, and they just don't quite get there in recent years.
You mentioned Wally Zerbiak, a little Bonzi Wells out there, a little Bonzi in the mix too, right? We get a little NBA influx.
Yep.
What did you make of what took place this year at the end of the season with Nate Oates? Speaking of the MAC, Nate Oates and his Alabama Crimson Tide. I have a hard time kind of processing. I know that the freshman Brandon Miller is uber talented. He's a one and done type of prospect. A lot of controversy with the transportation of the firearm that was used in a homicide. The pat down, the alleged TSA. Like, no, you're getting frisked. We've all been frisked before. If you've ever entered a bar, you've probably been frisked. You're looking for something. Like, the whole thing left a really bad taste in my mouth for a team that was playing really well. What did you make of that?
Yeah, TSA is looking for weapons also. Really, of all of the problems in that entire incident, Brandon Miller's participation is distasteful, but not the worst of it. One kid got kicked off the team, was actually involved in the shooting, and another kid happened to be there as well. As long as Miller is not, a suspect in the criminal investigation, I don't know really what they can do. I use profoundly poor judgment, to say the least, but it's the whole thing is just heartbreaking. As for the basketball team, they were never going to suspend Brandon Miller. They knew what his role in the incident month before the rest of us did, and if they felt that he needed to be suspended, they would have already done it. So that was just never going to happen. But it's a stain on their season that no matter what happens this year is going to color what people think of this team. But that's not really the worst of what happened.
You know what? I feel the same. Like, regardless of what comes out, we all look back at those events and what took place and off the court for Alabama and what has happened there, and then kind of process, and I guess everyone can kind of come to their own judgment on shoulda, woulda, coulda, and what happens next. Jerry, when you look at this, we've got some tickets that have already been punched. Is there a team that you are very much looking forward to watching for whether it's championship week this week or in the NCAA tournament? Is there a team that you're like, hey, whatever time their game is on, I got to watch it. I got to tell all my friends to watch this club because I believe in them.
I'll give you one that's already had their ticket punched, and that's Oral Roberts. You may remember them from the pandemic tournament a couple of years ago, getting to the Sweet 16, going through Ohio State to get there. Their leading scorer, then the leading scorer in the nation, now I think he's just in the top 10, Max Asmus, is still there. And they've got a couple other guys that were on that team. So, Oral Roberts is going to go into the NCAA tournament already knowing they can win because they've done it. So that makes them very dangerous. And also the fact that you've got Max Asmus, who could score from anywhere on the floor, that also makes them dangerous. But that's a really good team, that played in a league where, they're not going to get the kind of a seed where they can, be like an at-large quality seed. They're not going to quite get to that. They'll probably be a 12, something like that. But I would not want to be the 5 seed that sees Oral Roberts in my bracket.
I'm telling you, you mentioned the 12. You slide in there at a 12. We love that 12-5 line, right? We love that. We love a good upset there. How many teams out of the West Coast Conference? The Bulldogs of Gonzaga, they punched their ticket last night, so congratulations to them. I don't know how they did it. They have built an absolute powerhouse out there in the West Coast Conference. Congrats to Drew Timme and company. They beat St. Mary's last night 77-51. Will we see 2 teams from the West Coast Conference get in, Gonzaga and St. Mary's?
Yeah, and they'll both be in the top half of the bracket. I mean, St. Mary's will be 5, 6 seed, something like that. And then, but there isn't anybody else, just those 2. And Gonzaga, they could be a 2. That they are, that level of a team. The 2 or 3, now that they're done playing, and the teams that they're competing with are just getting started in their conference tournaments. It remains to be seen where Gonzaga ends up, but either a 2 or a 3 for the Zags, and that maybe not the level we normally see them at, but they sure look like they're playing at that level right now as they go into the NCAA tournament.
He is Jerry Palm. Find him on Twitter at JP Palm CBS. Find his work there, CBS Sports covering college hoops. Jerry, my friend, thank you so much for your time this morning, partner. We greatly appreciate it and enjoy championship week.
All right, thank you.